I am Speed.
Hey YouTube, Philly J with Different Dimension Gaming, coming at you with an update to my Speedroid Deck Profile. I've been speaking to the Master of Speed, and he's been giving me some updates on how to make this deck more consistent, how to make it better, and it's been really helpful because he's been playing this deck for like 8 years, so it was really cool to get his insight. So thank you to Kevin. But that being said, we're going to jump into it. I'll go through what we're talking about, and then as per usual on Thursday you'll have the combo video, which this deck can go crazy. So let's just jump into it. I'm going to start with 2 copies of Speedroid Terratop. This is one of the best cards to open in your deck, and if this card goes to 3, we're playing 3. If it's normal or special summoned, you can add a Speedroid monster from your deck to your hand, and if you control no monsters, you can special summon it from your hand. It's a really powerful card, especially in this deck where you just want to have as many names as possible. And then the best card to search off of Terratop is our 3 copies of Speedroid Take Tomborg. So if you control a wind monster, you can special summon it from your hand, and you can tribute it to special summon a Speedroid tuner from your deck, and then it wind locks you for the rest of the turn, but that's okay because we are exclusively playing wind monsters in our deck. And both these guys are hard once per turns. And then another 3 of Extended, we're going to be playing 3 copies of Speedroid Card Turbo. If you control a wind monster, you can special summon it from your hand. Also, you cannot activate the effects of monsters except for wind monsters on the field this turn. And then you can banish it from your graveyard and 1 Speedroid monster, and then all wind monsters you control gain 800 attack. So it's a good extender, and it boosts all your monsters, so it ends up being really, really powerful wherever it happens to be. And then for the final 3 of, we're going to play 3 copies of Speedroid Marble Machine. This is pretty much the only one you really need to normal summon to get its effect. When it's normal summon, you can add a Speedroid monster from your deck to your hand, and then it locks you into wins for the rest of the turn. And then if it's in your pendulum scale, if a defense position monster you control would be attacked, you can change it to attack position, and that monster can't be destroyed by battle. I've never used the scale effect, but the normal summon effect is extremely good because you have so much searchability in this deck that bricking is extremely difficult to do. The only real issue you have is playing through things like Droll. For a couple 2-ofs, we're going to play 2 Speedroid Ultra Hound. If this card is normal summon, you can send a Speedroid card from your deck to the graveyard, which pairs really well with our trap because if you open Ultra Hound and no other names for some reason, you can just normal summon Ultra Hound, send the trap, and that gives you access to your level 3 synchro. And then if it's in the graveyard, except the turn it was sent to the graveyard, you can banish it, shuffle a Speedroid in your graveyard into the deck, and then summon one from your extra deck with the same level. But a different name, and its effects are negated. You can only use each effect once per turn. 2 copies of Speedroid Den Daikoduke. You can banish this card from your graveyard, special summon a Speedroid tuner from your hand or graveyard except for itself. You can only use that effect once per turn. So again, this is really good for extending, especially with your red-eyed dice, because it's one of the most abused cards in this deck. And then for a couple 1-ofs, we're going to play 1 Speedroid Double Yo-Yo, 1 Funko Mudoshi Piper, and 1 red-eyed dice. So double yo-yo, if it's normal summon, you can target a level 3 or lower Speedroid in your graveyard to special summon it. This pairs really well with our Link monster because if we ban it to 7, we can just reveal these two and then you get access to Terror Top either way. Udoshi Paper, if it's normal or special summon, you can excavate the top cards of your deck equal to the number of other wind monsters that you currently control. And then you can add one of those cards to your hand. So if you've got a full board, you can excavate 5 and then add anything of those 5 to your hand. Then place the rest on the bottom of your deck in any order. Then you can banish this card from your graveyard, target a level 3 or higher wind monster you control, reduce its level by 2. You only use each effect once per turn. So again, a really good effect in Grave to adjust our levels to make synchro summoning easier. And then we are playing a small world bridge in that we're going to be playing one Ghidarla, the Mystery Dust Kaiju, and the one red-haired Hasty Horse. Again, because everything here is a wind machine, it makes our wind insect and our wind beast super easy to use with small world bridges, specifically because nothing else matches up with the attack and defense stats of either of these cards. So you're just going for wind. Now, the next monster is going to cause a bit of a stir because I, like most of you, do not like the archetype as a whole, but Kashtira Unicorn puts in incredible work in this deck. And because of the Megatins from last year, they are super affordable. And for most of what we use, it's just to kind of deal with a hand that's not great, because Kashtira Unicorn and our Speedroid Card Turbo is just a 2-card Baron. So Kashtira Unicorn can special summon itself from your hand if you control no monsters, and then on the field, the activated effect is you can add a Kashtira spell trap from your deck to your hand. Then if your opponent would activate a monster effect during your main phase or their battle phase, you can look at a card in their extra deck and banish it face down. Now, I haven't used that effect yet, but if it ever comes up, I'm curious if I'll want to use it because I, like a lot of other people, have PTSD from Kashtira format. That's it for the monsters. For some of the spells, we're going to play one copy of Speedroid Wheel. You can discard a card, roll a 6-sided die, then special summon from your hand or deck 1 or 2 Speedroid monsters whose level equal the result of the die that you roll. Their effects are negated. And if you do not special summon, you lose life points equal to the die roll times 500. So it is kind of a gamble, but because we search it off of one of our Speedroid synchros, depending on the hand, we usually can resolve it, no issues. 2 copies of Speed Recovery. Target a Speedroid in your graveyard, special summon it during the main phase, except the turn this card was sent to the graveyard. You can banish it to target a Speedroid in your graveyard and add it to your hand. So yeah, it's just an in-archetype monster reborn. Comes in super handy all the time. And then, as I mentioned, we are playing 3 copies of Small World. Now, people tell me that this card is really hard to understand, and I think once you understand how it works, it makes complete sense. So you reveal a card in your hand, then you reveal a card from your deck that has exactly one thing in common with the card in your hand, and then you add from your deck to your hand a card that has exactly one thing in common with the monster you revealed from your deck, and then the monster that you revealed from your hand and the first one you reveal in your deck are banished face down. So just to simplify it, let's say that we activate Small World, we reveal Speedroid Ultra Hound, then from our deck we reveal Red-Haired Hasty Horse, because the only thing these two have in common is that they're both wind. Their levels are different, their types are different, their attack and their defense are all different. So the only thing they have in common is their attribute. And then off of Red Haired Hasty Horse, we can grab our Speedroid Terratop, which again, only thing it has in common is that they are both wind attributes. And then these two get banished face down, and then Terratop goes to your hand. And with Terratop in hand, you've got full combo. It reads really difficult, but I promise once you understand how it works, it's one of the best cards in the game. It basically says add any monster from your deck to your hand. You could even use it to search hand traps. Now, unfortunately, my copy didn't get here in time, but we are playing the one copy of Kashtira Birth. I'll throw it up on the screen. And what this does is you can normal summon level 7 monsters without tributing. And once per turn, you can special summon one of your non-Xyz Kashtira monsters that is banished or in your graveyard. If your opponent activates a spell or trap effect and you control a Kashtira, you can target 3 cards in your opponent's graveyard and banish them face down. So you'll probably never get that effect off because you're usually just going to synchro off your unicorn, or I guess if you wanted you could leave it up on the field, but I don't know why you would play a unicorn when you could have a Baron instead. And then for the last spell, we're going to be playing the one copy of Called by the Grave just to deal with hand traps and an interruption on our opponent's turn, potentially. We're playing all of one in archetype trap. We're playing the one Speedroid Duplicate. You can banish a wind monster from your graveyard, target one card your opponent controls, or return it to the hand. Already great card. During your main phase, if this card is in your graveyard, you can target a level 2 or higher Speedroid monster you control, reduce its level by 1, and if you do, special summon this card as a normal monster, Machine Tuner Wind at level 1, 0 attack, 0 defense. It is not treated as a trap card. So again, you can normal summon your Ultra Hound, send Duplicate, activate Duplicate, targeting Ultra Hound, and then you've got a level 3 Synchro access. And then for the hand traps, we are playing 2 copies of Nibiru the Primal Being just to deal with our opponent's board. I mean, this is pretty much any 8 hand traps that you want. I'm also playing the 3 Ash Blossom and the 3 Infinite Impermanence. And just to deal with things, you know, yeah, my locals is not super competitive, so I don't feel the need to avoid Ash Blossom because we don't have any fire Snake Eye players. So I'm cool putting Ash Blossom. Again, depending on your locals, adjust the hand traps where needed. For the extra deck, we're going to run through all of our Speedroids first, and then we'll branch off from there. So we're going to play the one high Speedroid Clearwing Rider. Needs a Wind Tuner and a non-tuner Wind Synchro monster. Once per turn, during your main phase, you can roll a 6-sided die and shuffle wind monsters from your graveyard into your deck up to the number of the result. Then you can destroy cards your opponent controls up to the number shuffled in, and if you do, this card gains 500 attack for each one that you destroy. So let's say that you roll a 6, but your opponent's only got 4 cards on their side of the field. You destroy those 4 cards by shuffling back 4, because you shuffle up to the result. You don't have to shuffle equal to the result. And then it gains 2,000 attack. During your opponent's main phase, as a quick effect, you can tribute this Synchro Summon card, special summon up to 2 level 7 Wind Synchro monsters with different names from each other from your extra deck. So we'll get into those a little bit later, but this card is absolutely incredible. It's not super great going first because you want to get that attack gain, but if you end up in a grind game, this card will be incredibly powerful. One copy of High Speedroid Kite Drake. A Wind Machine Tuner and one or more non-tuner monsters. If this card is synchro summon, you can activate one of the two following effects. 1. Destroy all other cards on the field. 2. Negate the effects of all face-up cards your opponent currently controls. If this card in your possession is sent to the graveyard by an opponent's card, you can add a Speedroid monster from your deck to your hand. This card is absolutely insane. It nukes the board, or it negates everything, and then if your opponent gets rid of it, it searches. If this card was generic, 100% this card would have been banned years ago. One copy of High Speedroid Chanbara. One tuner, one or more non-tuner monsters. This card can make a second attack during each battle phase, and when this card attacks, at the start of the damage step, it gains 200 attack. So every time it attacks, it grows, and the attack stays. So you attack once, it's 22, 24. Next turn, 26, 28. And it just keeps getting bigger as it continues to attack. If this card is sent to the graveyard, target one of your banished Speedroid cards, add it to your hand. You can only special summon one Chanbara per turn. One copy of High Speedroid Hagoida. One tuner, one or more non-tuner monsters. During either player's turn, you can tribute this card, increase the levels of all monsters currently on the field by 1 until the end of this turn. But the effect that we really care about is the second effect. If this card is in your graveyard and you control a Speedroid tuner monster, you can special summon this card from your graveyard, but you are windlocked for the rest of the turn. You can only use this effect once per turn. So, again, if you get out any level 3 tuner and Hagoida is in your graveyard, you've got instant access to Crystal Wing. 2 copies of High Speedroid Cork Shooter. These two in tandem are incredible for our combo. Cork Shooter needs one tuner, one or more non-tuner monsters. If this card is synchro summoned, you can activate one of these effects. 1. Add one Speedroid spell trap from your deck to your hand. 2. If all materials that were sent to the graveyard for the synchro summon of this card are still in the graveyard, special summon those monsters. If you use 2 Speedroids, you're going to bring back both Speedroids off of its effect, if they're both in grave. And then it locks you into wins for the rest of the turn. You can only use each effect once per turn. So again, there's a lot of things that lock you into win, which is why we're exclusively playing win monsters. And again, these two in tandem are incredible. That's it for our Speedroid names. Moving on to our Wing Dragons. We're going to play 2 copies of Crystal Wing Synchro Dragon. 1 tuner, 1 or more non-tuner synchro monsters. Once per turn, when another monster's effect is activated, quick effect, you can negate the activation, and if you do, destroy that monster. And if you do that, this card gains the attack of that opponent's monster to the end of the turn. Then, if this card battles an opponent's monster, if its level is 5 or higher, it gains the attack of the monster that it's battling. So if you negate a monster effect and attack with Crystal Wing, it gains the attack twice. So it can end up being an absolutely gigantic monster on the field. I have seen someone use Crystal Wing to increase its attack, to attack over the arrival, adding Nister, then use a Barone effect to negate it with Crystal Wing, just to gain the extra attack boost to swing for game. This card's insane. 1 Clearwing Synchro Dragon and 1 Clearwing Fast Dragon. Clearwing Synchro Dragon, 1 tuner, 1 or more non-tuner monsters. Once per turn, when another level 5 or higher monster activates its effect on the field as a quick effect, you can negate the activation, and if you do, destroy it. Once per turn, when a monster effect is activated that targets one level 5 or higher monster on the field and no other cards, quick effect, you can negate the activation, and if you do, destroy it. If this effect destroys a monster, this card gains the attack of the destroyed monster until the end of the turn. So again, it's like a double negate, because you gain the attack of something that would activate its effect, like a Nibiru, and then if your opponent would target a card like itself with a card effect, you can also negate that effect. And then if it's a monster, you gain the attack. These winged dragons are absurd cards. Clearwing Fast Dragon, 1 tuner, 1 or more non-tuners. Quick effect, you can target one face-up monster your opponent controls that was special summoned from the extra deck. Until the end of this turn, change its attack to 0 and negate its effects. You only use this effect once per turn. If this card in the monster zone is destroyed by battle or card effect, place it in the pendulum zone. And then as a pendulum effect, you can send one face-up Speedroid tuner and one face-up non-tuner you control to the graveyard, whose total level equals 7. Special summon this card from your pendulum zone. You can only use this effect once per turn. So if it gets destroyed, you just scale it, and then you basically synchro summon it from the pendulum zone. Very cool effect. I actually like that. I like that effect a lot. That's it for our wing boys. Now for some of our more generic synchros, we're going to play 1 Baron de Fleur, 1 Wind Pegasus ad Ignister, and 1 Virtual World Beast Juju. Baron de Fleur, 1 tuner, 1 or more non-tuner monsters. Again, Cash Tier Unicorn and any of your level 3 Speedroid tuners, right into Baron. Once per turn, you can target one card on the field, destroy it. Once while face up on the field, when a card or effect is activated, quick effect, you can negate the activation, and if you do, destroy that card. You can only use the previous effect of Baron de Fleur once per turn. And then once per turn during the standby phase, you can target a level 9 or lower monster in your graveyard, return this card to the extra deck, and if you do, special summon that monster. So, Baron in the standby phase can get you access to some of your extenders like Terratop, Taketamborg, or Mudoshi Piper, because it shovels back to special summon, and all these trigger an effect either on field or on summon, and the summoning condition does not matter for their effect. So Baron can be a negate, a destroy, and an extender. Wind Pegasus ad Ignister, 1 tuner, 1 or more non-tuner monsters. During your main phase, you can destroy spells and traps your opponent controls up to the number of ad Ignister monsters you control. If another card you control is destroyed by battle or an opponent's card effect, while this card is on the field or in the graveyard, you can banish this card, then target one card your opponent controls, shuffle it into the deck. Only use each effect once per turn. So you don't summon this guy often. It's mostly used for your Link Monsters effect, but if it ever comes up, it's usually very powerful. And then Virtual World Beast Juju, 1 tuner, 1 or more non-tuner monsters, cannot be destroyed by a battle or card effect while you have 2 or more monsters in your graveyard with the same original type and attribute. Every monster that is not a hand trap or a Cash Tier in our deck is a wind machine. And the only other 2 are our Kaiju and our Hasty Horse, which are both small world bridges, or a Kaiju for our opponent. So basically what it's saying is this card cannot be destroyed by battle or card effect. You can banish 2 monsters from the graveyard with the same original type and attribute, but different names. Target a card on the field, send it to the graveyard. So again, you can shuffle into deck, send a grave, can't be destroyed by battle or card effect, pops a card on the field. They're just generically good cards, and they're both extenders with our Link monster. speaking of our Link monster, we're going to play 2 copies of High Speedroid Rubber Band Shooter. Needs 2 wind monsters. If only we had access to those. During your main phase, you can immediately after this effect resolves, normal summon 1 wind monster. Also, you cannot special summon the rest of the turn except for synchro monsters. So again, it gives you access to every monster in your deck as a normal summon. So the actual effect you need to resolve is banish a wind synchro monster from your extra deck, reveal 2 Speedroid monsters with different names from your deck, whose total level equal the level of the monster you banished. Your opponent randomly picks one to add to your hand, and the other one goes to grave. So let's say you activate the effect and you banish the Wind Pegasus. You reveal Speedroid Double Yo-Yo, Speedroid Terratop. Your opponent adds one to your hand, other one goes to grave. In this case, you don't care because both say summon Terratop. So you get rid of Terratop, you normal summon Yo-Yo, Yo-Yo effect, summon Terratop. This card is access to every starter and every extender in your deck, and it gives you a second normal summon. There are so many cards in this deck with absolutely absurd effects, and I think it's genuinely an incredibly underrated deck. With that being said, that's the deck profile. If you like it, like and subscribe. If you could think of any better cards to play, let us know in the comment section. We are 2 subscribers away as of the recording of this video for our 100 subscriber giveaway, which will be giving away a quarter-century rare Dragostapelia. When we hit the goal, I will explain how to enter the giveaway in that video, but for now, I guess we'll see you next time.